Welcome everybody to week 1 of our class. This week in my devotional I want to focus on this topic of righteousness by faith. We're going to start by taking a peek at Abraham in Genesis 15. Genesis 15 steps into a visit by the Lord to Abraham, and you find examples of this at different times in Abraham's story, and it almost becomes commonplace where it'll say, the Lord appeared to Abraham, or the Lord said to Abraham, and just continues with the story. So the Lord visiting Abraham is not a terribly out of place, unusual thing in this story. But here we find the Lord taking Abraham outside, and he said to him, "Look up at the heavens and count the stars, if indeed you can count them." And then he said to him, "So shall your offspring be." I think it's really important to remember that Abraham at this point is probably 90 years old at least. And his wife is older yet. She's in her 90s as well. So, man, it would take quite a leap of faith, like verse 6 says here. Abraham believed the Lord, and he, the Lord, credited it to him as righteousness. So this very old man steps out in faith, believing that God is going to do what he says. That's a key concept this week. I want to draw our attention to a passage that many of you may know, but I hope when you think of Hebrews 11, you think of the faith chapter. If not, just remember that. Hebrews 11 is the faith chapter. And if you have time, it's an incredible read. Essentially, the writer of Hebrews just steps through the story of human history, and man after man after man, example after example of men stepping out in faith. It's really a cool passage, well worth your time. Hebrews 11, the faith chapter. I want to hone in on one verse of this incredible chapter. Hebrews 11 verse 6 steps back from the march of faith, of story after story, and gives us some good overall insight. I think there's a couple of things we can walk away from this passage understanding about God that are just incredible. Let's read this. Again, this is Hebrews 11 verse 6. It says, "Without faith, it is impossible to please God, to please Him. For whoever would draw near must believe that He exists, and that He rewards those who seek Him." I think we can walk away with a couple of things from this passage. One, certainly the latter part of this verse is about existence. And about activity. Those who would draw near have got to believe that He exists, obviously. But like I pointed out last time, it's not just existence, right? It's to believe that He is involved. It involves this activity, that He is involved in our world, that He wants to reward those who are seeking after Him. Incredible reminders of the kind of God we serve, and how faith works, right? I want to look at one more passage And I know we could probably do a devotional on any one of these passages, but let's look at one more. This verse is from Ephesians chapter 2, and this is verses 8 and 9. I think this is incredibly rich, for our study of what it means to have faith. So let's just read this together. For by grace you have been saved. Let me just grab a different color. You've been saved through faith. There's faith again. There's an incredible connection between these two concepts of grace and faith all through Scripture. Grace, unmerited favor, not something you can earn. It's unmerited favor. Note that here. Something incredible that's coming your way you do not deserve. And I think that the next portion of this, while it is a negative statement, actually gives me a great deal of comfort, actually. It says, for by grace you have been saved through faith. And this was not your doing. I love this next part. It is a gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. Oh, folks, this is not about being good enough, not goodness. It's not about cleanliness. Not cleanliness. Let me just write cleanness. You can't clean up your world enough to deserve this gift. You can't be good enough to earn this gift. Truly, it's this grace that gives us access to this gift of God. It's one thing for me to hold out $1 and say, here, take $1. And for you to believe that I'm going to give you $1. It's a whole other thing to reach out in faith that I'm not playing a joke on you, I'm not trying to fool you, and take that $1 and believe, hey, wow, Rob's a great guy, he gave me $1. It's like that with faith. We can believe that God has provided this incredible way for us to be saved, right? This idea of becoming a Christian, becoming a child of God. We can believe that this path exists, this gift exists, but to step out in faith and take hold of the gift of God is a whole other thing. Like Abraham did, he believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. I think back to chapter 12 of Genesis and how Abraham is called out of his family, out of his country, out of his home, to leave everything behind to follow God. And he did. And then in 15, like we saw, God promises the impossible. And yet Abraham believes him. It's very similar in our lives today with this incredible path, this incredible way, this incredible gift of God, whereby we can become children of God. We can become Christians. We have to step out in faith to receive it. I hope you've enjoyed this peek into what faith can do and how we can become righteous before God. I hope you have a great week, everybody, and can't wait to look into other passages with you. Have a good week.